Check. Keep it alive through these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage. And I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares. Nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling them flares. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch the scenario. My stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away. Asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah. Just nod your head with it, so explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it, no scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool, hear my heartbeat, beat into the vocals. I'm so no-go, lost my mind, oh no. It's Ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones, bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in. Full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio. You're here with host Lavon. It's Friday, May 2nd, 2014. There's so much magic in the air today. It's unreal. I've literally been full of power, shocking everybody and every surface I come in contact with today. I've had some pretty intense weather here. It's been like 95 degrees. Poor San Diegans, experiencing hotness. What do we do? Well, I've been worried about my garden. Tonight is show 1 of Operation Garden Project. I've got this great book called How to Grow More Vegetables and Fruits, Nuts, Berries, Grains, and Other Crops. More than you thought ever possible on less land than you can imagine. It's a great book by John Jevons, forward by Alice Waters. We will be going through this book together, cover to cover, starting tonight. Are you excited? I bet you're so excited. I am a novice gardener. I became inspired to grow my own food back in 2010 when I became aware and conscious of who controls our food and how they control it and why they control it. It's pretty disgusting. I've been struggling a lot with food ever since becoming aware of such a thing because I realized that food is not food. It's something else. It's fabricated, an imposter. It's been tainted. It no longer serves us as it was intended. So we got to change it back. We got to take more control, and we've got to share. We got to share the good news. We got to tell people what's going on. If you haven't realized already, Friday nights are a little different than Monday and Wednesday. Nick and DB talk about current events, things that are going on in the world. Those things aren't always so awesome. So we try and balance that information with some positive information. We talk about health, we talk about wellness, we talk about mindfulness, and now we're going to talk about food in depth. Now that I'm kind of practicing gardening, I feel like it's a good time for me to share with you guys my practical experience, which is very little, but enough to be able to share. And I want to talk about Monsanto a little bit tonight. This is the whole reason why I'm growing my own food. It's because I want to cultivate wellness. Because I realize that that's been taken away from us. If you're not aware, Monsanto is a multinational agricultural biotechnology corporation headquartered in the Creve Coeur, Missouri, Forgive me if I pronounce that wrong. With the exception of weapons manufacturers and other private military farms, there is perhaps no corporation that provides such a dramatic example of corporate influence over government. Not only does Monsanto spend a staggering $8 million a year lobbying government officials, imagine 80 full-time lobbyists each paid $100,000 a year, but many former Monsanto executives hold key positions in the FDA, the EPA, and the USDA. Right? Something to ponder there. Where they have made favorable regulatory decisions regarding Monsanto's products. One of those products, recombinant bovine somatotropin, commonly known as RBGH, or the bovine growth hormone, is a synthetic hormone injected into cows to increase milk production. It also increases levels of a substance called IGF-1 in their milk, which is then passed on to humans. Elevated blood serum levels of IGF-1 have been linked in numerous studies to treat breast, colon, and prostate cancer. For this reason, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and all 27 European Union countries have banned the use of RBGH. The FDA's highly controversial 1993 decision approving RBGH was overseen by former Monsanto attorney Michael R. Taylor, who was serving as the FDA's Deputy Commissioner of Policy. After the deciding, Taylor left the FDA and again joined Monsanto, becoming the company's chief lobbyist and vice president for public policy. Excuse me. This weather makes me super congested. My body's like, what's going on? So if I'm a little nasally, I apologize. Okay, let's get back to this here. He has since gone back and forth between Monsanto and various government positions in the FDA and the USDA, highlighting the revolving door syndrome that has become a hallmark of corporate government collusion. He was last appointed by Obama as the FDA's Deputy Commissioner of Foods in 2010. Monsanto's genetically modified crops consist primarily of those modified to be resistant to the herbicide Roundup, and another Monsanto product, not surprisingly, and those modified to contain with their cells the biological pesticide called Bacillus thuringiensis, or BT. Thuringiensis. Widespread health and environmental concerns over both these types of GM plants are based on numerous scientific studies and have resulted in countries banning GM crops entirely. In the European Union, a memorandum on new GM crops has been in effect since 1998, and strict labeling is required on all genetically modified food products approved before the moratorium. Monsanto has spent millions of dollars pressuring EU officials to allow the introduction of GM foods into Europe, and, more significantly, recent WikiLeaks documents reveal U.S. State Department officials also pressuring EU officials on Monsanto's behalf. Weird. Monsanto's actions run the gamut of illegality and dirty tricks and include the attempted bribery of Canadian officials, the intentional dumping of toxic waste into the environment, and the filing of hundreds of lawsuits alleging patent infringement against small farmers whose crops became contaminated with their patented genes, etc. Mass protests against Monsanto have spread to dozens of countries around the world, and have included civil disobedience actions like the burning of experimental crop fields and the non-violent occupation of Monsanto facilities. I'm reading this from an awesome card. It's an OccuCard, and you can find more information at occupy-monsanto.com, or you can go to see more cards, as this is number 7, of a series at www.occucards.com. It's OCCUCARDS.com. Check it out, guys. And that leads me into my next point. I want to talk about the March Against Monsanto. We're having a San Diego edition. There are going to be over 50. We'll be joining cities in over 50 countries on May 24th. This year, our local event will begin at 11. We're going to meet at the Reuben H. Fleet Museum at the Fountain in Balboa Park. We're going to begin at 11. We're going to have lots of information, you guys. We're going to have a functional workshop afterwards, beginning around 1. And it's going to be an awesome event. There are going to be a lot of people talking about gardening, hydroponics, homesteading, composting. We're going to have somebody talking about the body. We're going to have children's activities. And we're going to have a juice bar, which is going to be super cool. We're also going to have an overpass light brigade. We're going to make some more awareness. You know, we're going to spend an hour speaking on different topics. Then we're going to have a march. They're going to educate people. And then we're going to make a little more noise to close in the evening. So if you guys want to check that out, you can go to facebook.com /MAMSANDIEGO. MAM San Diego, basically. So check it out. There's going to be a lot of good information. And we've got to take a stand. It's time. And a lot of people are overwhelmed because Monsanto is a huge corporation, right? It's daunting. They've got all the money. They've got all the power. They've got all the resources. So you think. It starts with planting your own seeds. And you're thinking, how in the hell am I going to do that? You know, maybe you're inhibited by where you live. You don't have a lot of space, or the weather's crappy, or you don't know what you're doing, or you don't even know what to do with the food once you get it. Like, how do you cook it? Most of us grew up with things from packages or boxes, right? That's been the norm for us, but I want to bring back old school ways, like connecting with our food. I believe that it would mean so much more to us if we understood the energy that went into the production of it. And I think that's what we're missing. When you think of things on an energetic scale, you know, what kind of energy is our mass food system receiving? Not only is it not food, who's caring for it? You know, pesticides, herbicides, and things are on such a large scale. There's not that attention and love put into the garden. I've been hanging out at this community garden near my home, and I'm so thrilled. They've got these purple carrots. I've got to tell you, I've got this whole new obsession for carrots. I thought carrots were good, and I thought I knew what carrots were, but nothing compares to a non-GMO fresh carrot from the earth. I didn't even wash it. I just kind of like rubbed it on my pants, and it tasted like candy. Seriously, you can grow candy in your ground. And it's good for you. It's healthy candy. Get on that action. Before we get into our book, and tonight we're going to talk about soil, as it is the single most important aspect, and it's where we should begin. I want to talk just a little bit more about Monsanto, just to give you a little motivation to partake in this gardening experience, okay? So, research studies have shown that Monsanto's genetically modified foods can lead to serious health conditions such as the development of cancer, tumors, infertility, and birth defects. In the United States, the FDA, the agency tasked with ensuring food safety for the population, is steered by ex-Monsanto executives, and we feel that's a questionable conflict of interest and explains the lack of government-led research on the long-term effects of GMO products. Recently, the U.S. Congress and President collectively passed the nicknamed Monsanto Protection Act. Did you hear about that? Probably not. And if you did, you're pissed. That, among the other things, bans courts from halting the sale of Monsanto's genetically modified seeds. Ew. For too long, Monsanto has been the benefactor of corporate subsidies and political favoritism. Organic and small farmers suffer losses while Monsanto continues to forge its monopoly over the world's food supply, including exclusive patenting rights over the seeds of genetic makeup. Monsanto's GMO seeds are harmful to the environment. For example, scientists have indicated that they have caused colony collapse among the world's bee population. This is major, you guys. Albert Einstein said that within 4 years, the entire population, meaning all 7 billion of us, would cease to exist without bees. They are at the very beginning, they lay all the groundwork, the foundation of our ecosystem. Without them pollinating our crops and, spreading their love via flowers, we wouldn't have anything. You've got to understand how important this is. I know I sound like a crazy lady, but do some research. It's real, I promise. Let's see here. Monsanto's GMO seeds are harmful to the environment. Soil becomes so contaminated by the weed killer that no other crops can grow in it except for GMOs. So, what are the solutions we advocate? This is what we're going to be talking about at the March Against Monsanto. Vote with your dollar by buying organic and boycotting Monsanto-owned companies that use GMOs in their products. Labeling of GMOs so that consumers can make informed decisions. Repealing relevant provisions of the U.S. Monsanto Protection Act. Calling for further scientific research on the health effects of GMOs. Holding Monsanto executives and Monsanto-supporting politicians accountable through direct communication, grassroots journalism, social media, etc. Continue to inform the public about Monsanto secrets as we speak, and take to the streets to show the world and Monsanto that we won't take these injustices quietly. We're mad as hell, and we're not going to take it anymore. We will not stand for Zionism. We will not stand for poison, and that's why we march against Monsanto. I'm going to talk about them from now on, guys, until it happens, okay? We're going to do it. So, back to our book. Again, it's called How to Grow More Vegetables by John Jevons. It's a really popular book, and I think it's a good one to share, especially if you're a novice like me, which I am. But that's okay. We can go through this journey together. And I got to share with you the best piece of knowledge that I can. At this point, is not to overanalyze. I spent way too much time overanalyzing which crops would be best next to each other because I'm trying to combine two methods of gardening. The first method being square box gardening, where you can grow enough food for 4 people in a 4-foot by 4-foot box, and you create a grid on top so that there are 16 equal spaces, and within each space or box you plant a different crop. In addition to that, I'm doing something called companion planting, making sure that the plants that are near each other benefit each other. So that's what I've got going on. So far it's going well. I'm in week 4, I believe. Forgive me if I've lost track of time. And a lot of my plants are emerging. I've got onions, 4 kinds of lettuce. I have kale. I have broccoli and cabbage. We've got lots of beets, lots of carrots, radishes. What else are we growing? Did I say onions? Parsnips. All kinds of delicious things. And look forward to updates on the garden every week. But soil. There is an exciting challenge ahead of us. How can we revitalize our extraordinary planet, ensuring life and health for the environment, the life forms of a myriad of ecosystems, humankind, and future generations? Does it sound daunting? It does, but I'm telling you, the solution is simple. The answer is as close to us as the food we consume each day. We can begin to create a better world from right where we are. In our home gardens and mini farms, millions of people in over 140 countries are already using something called Grow biointensive sustainable mini farming techniques to work towards the better world. So that's a particular technique they discuss in this book. You'll understand it as we go through, okay? We farm as we eat. If we consume food that has been grown using methods that are inadvertently deplete the soil in the growing process, we are responsible for depleting the soil. It is how we are farming. If, instead, we raise our raise or request food grown in ways that heal the earth, then we are healing the earth and its soil. Think about it this way, you guys. When you eat something, and like an apple is a great example. It's such a perfect food. Within it, it already has all kinds of enzymes. And enzymes assist with the breakdown of food, okay? So let's compare eating a delicious raw apple with enzymes and a Big Mac. So you eat this apple, and it goes through your body. It's assimilated well because it already has within it the essential aspects that help it become utilized within your body. You know, it's broken down and assimilated quickly. In comparison to a Big Mac, which is not food, your body has to spend energy breaking it down and trying to process it. It's the same thing with this technique. If we garden in methods like the kind Monsanto uses, we're causing havoc to the earth. But if we incorporate certain practices, we can, like the apple, only get the benefits. Our daily food choices make the difference. We can choose to sustain ourselves while increasing the planet's vitality. In the process, we preserve resources, breathe cleaner air, enjoy good exercise, and eat pure food. Pure food equals pure body. Pure body equals pure mind. Pure mind equals what? That's what is to be answered. But how are we going to answer that unless we trace back to the beginning, which is pure food, right? What are the dimensions of the challenge of raising food that sustains the soil? Current agricultural practices reportedly destroy approximately 6 pounds of soil for each pound of food produced. United States croplands are losing topsoil about 18 times faster than the soil formation rate. This loss is not sustainable. So what are we going to do about it? In fact, worldwide, only about 33 to 49 years worth of farmable soil remains. Ugh. Why is this happening? Conventional agricultural practices often deplete the soil 18 to 80 times more rapidly than nature builds soil. This phenomenon, there's my favorite word, happens when the humans cured organic matter in the soil is used up and not replaced. When cropping patterns are used for that, tend to deplete the soil structure, and when the minerals are removed from the soil more rapidly than they are replaced. Even organic farming probably depletes the soil 9 to 67 times faster than nature builds it. By importing organic matter and minerals from other soils, which thereby becomes increasingly depleted, the planetary result is a net reduction in overall soil quality. In contrast, the techniques used in grow biointensive, sustainable mini farming can build the soil up to 60 times faster than in nature. The overall goal of growing biointensive techniques, which distinguishes those techniques from other practices, is the miniaturization of food production in a closed system. It uses 8 techniques in a closed system that does not use any chemical substances. 10 years ago, Ecology Action coined the term grow biointensive to refer to this style of production. These techniques include deep soil preparation, which develops good soil structure. Once this structure is established, it may be maintained for several years with 2-inch deep surfaces cultivation until compaction once again is necessary for deep soil preparation. Sometimes I can't get that word out. It's all right. So the use of compost is another method for soil fertility and nutrients. Close plant spacing, as in nature, such as in my square box garden. Synergetic planting of crop combinations so that plants are grown together to enhance each other. The other thing I was discussing earlier, which is companion planting. Certain plants help other plants. carbon-efficient crops, by which approximately 60% of the growing area is planted in dual-purpose seed and grain crops for the production of large amounts of carbonaceous material for compost and significant amounts of dietary calories. Calorie-efficient crops, by which approximately 30% of the growing area is planted in special root crops, such as potatoes, leeks, garlics, parsnips, and Jerusalem artichokes, which produce a large amount of calories for the diet per unit of area. So that's very interesting. So the phones are open now, guys. If you guys want to call me, the number is 1-718-717-8296. And let's join in the discussion. I want to hear, are you gardening? Why not? And if so, how? Share with me your secrets. We've all got our little tips and tricks. So, join in. The use of open pollinated seeds to preserve genetic diversity. This is very important, right? This goes back to Monsanto. If we're using non-GMO old world seeds, the crops will be perpetual. We won't have to use these chemicals or these pesticides, and we'll have a sustainable method of growing food. That's literally how you grow a community. You want to be able to share it, right? You get a perpetual return on your investment, which sounds pretty awesome to me. I don't know about you. Excuse me. And another method of this type of technique is a whole interrelated farming system. So this can be referred to as like an aquaponic system, like a self-sustaining system. It's a really effective way to grow food. Let's see. If it's used properly with all of its components and all of the waste are recycled and enough organic matter is grown to ensure that each farm can produce enough compost to create and maintain sustainable soil fertility. A mini farm can create soil rapidity and maintain sustainable soil fertility. And it makes a huge difference, it says. So up to 6 billion microbial life forms can live in about 5 grams of cured compost, about the size of a quarter. You see why compost is important? I've actually started my own compost pile very simply. It was one of the things that I overthought. I thought, I need to buy this barrel from the gardening store, and I need to get all this fancy equipment. No. Literally, I dug a hole. What my buddy did. Thank you, Mark. I love you. He dug me a 3-foot hole. It's about 3 feet deep, 2 foot wide, and 3 feet long. And every day we just add our organic matter to it, and we smash it up with this shovel. Really good, especially potatoes. We don't want those suckers growing. We water it. We spin it around, and we cover it, and everything's just doing its thing. And my buddy recommends in about 6 months that it would be able to be utilized as compost. Spider! There's a spider on me. Okay, I'm over it. Little fact about me, I don't kill spiders. That's not my job. Regardless of how freaked out I am about them, I just move them aside. So that's a nice thing. He has his place too, right? Who am I to kill him? I'm just Levon, man. Back to our soil talk here. We've talked about a lot of different types of things, and the combination of these techniques make it possible to greatly reduce resources compared to the conventional agricultural practices, which greatly increase soil fertility and productivity. So we're talking about better quality soil, better companion growing with Mother Earth, more productivity, and healthier food. Sounds pretty good, right? So a 67 to 88% reduction in water consumption per unit of production, a 50+% reduction of the amount of purchased fertilizer and organic fertilizer from required per unit of production. Excuse me 1 second. Water. A 94 to 99% reduction in the amount of energy used per unit of production, 100% increase in soil fertility, while productivity increases and resource use decreases. I like those facts. A 200% to 400% increase in calorie production per unit of area. That's exciting. And a 100% plus increase in income per unit of area. However, growing biointensive, sustainable mini farming or any other sustainable farming practices. Ooh, hey guys, we're getting a call. Let's add this person to our discussion here. Hey, welcome to the Anti-Media Radio. I'm Levon. What do you want to talk about?
Hey Levon, it's Drew from Double Cross Radio. What's up?
Hey Drew, I'm having an awesome time sharing with the people some gardening techniques. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm just tuning in to your show. I don't know when you got started, but I try to catch your show whenever I can.
Oh, I appreciate that. You mean like what time do I start, or like when did I actually begin?
Yeah, I'm kind of coming into the middle of your discussion, but
gotcha.
I'm really into composting, so I thought I'd call in.
Ooh, yeah, tell me more, as I am a novice composter. If you could share some tips with us, well, we would super love it. Tell me, what do you know?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what I know. I'm not saying that this is all of the info that you need.
Of course not. We're collectively compiling information, so your contribution is loved.
I'm always learning new things. Well, you know, as you might know, I do commercial and home aquaponics. Mm-hmm. So I have a couple systems. I have about a 400-gallon system at home, and I have a 14,000-gallon system at my urban farm. One of the challenges that I run into with having an aquaponics system and with the types of fish that I raise is trying to find good, healthy food for my fish. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and most of the feeds that are out there are GMO, fish meal based,
right?
You know, totally non-sustainable kind of stuff. And, you know, and there's still a lot of organic aquaponic farmers out there that are still, their crops are still aquaponic, even though they're feeding their fish, you know, a lot of junk. Mm. So from the get-go, I started trying to come up with different ways to raise feed for my fish, and that's what got me into composting.
That's really interesting. You're raising feed for your fish, so you've got like a control on every aspect.
Right. So what I do is I compost with red wiggler worms, composting worms, mm-hmm. and I compost with black soldier flies. So I've got two separate setups for these things, and so my composting setup is quite elaborate. What I've been doing lately, I have these, for the worms, I have these big 236-gallon fiberglass tubs that were actually, they were made by Boeing, and they're military surplus gear. They were actually
You are not messing around.
No, these things were used to transport and store weapons guidance systems.
Oh.
And somebody gave me a bunch of them.
Dude, talk about repurposing.
I'm repurposing. I'm taking the government swords and I'm pounding them into plowshares. Yet I'm still keeping my swords.
Yes.
So you know, we're taking guns. We're making butter here.
Yeah, buddy.
So I've retrofitted these containers, and what I've done is I've made these big composting bins. So I have the 36-gallon container on the top, and then I've got these other containers that are they're kind of shallow. They're about 9 inches deep. That goes on the bottom, and I've got a setup where the leachates that come from the composted material, you know, the excretions from the worms and mm-hmm. the liquid that comes from the decomposing matter, needs to drain off into something. So that drains down into the tray where the leachate is collected. So then what I do is I get that, you know, and basically it's like a compost tea. Ooh. And you can add that back into your aquaponic system, or you can, for additional nutrients, or you can water with it. Another thing that I've been experimenting with, I was reading an article recently in Maximum Yield about brewing fermented
like
compost.
Kombucha. Like, oh, yeah. Dude.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I had that idea because I was thinking, I'm so glad you called. How would we address this inside of an aquaponics system? And I had the idea of like something like kombucha, like when my belly's having trouble, I drink a probiotic. Like why couldn't we do the same thing for our garden?
Right, exactly. You need to get these micronutrients going, you know, and you have this aerobic bacteria that's really beneficial. And so you need to get that stuff going. So, you know, in the Maximum Yield article, what they were talking about is what they were doing is you were taking like your compost from your compost pile and making a tea bag out of some old nylons or whatever, and steeping it, and you want to get like an air pump, like from an aquarium, and pump a bunch of air in there to aerate it, and then you add in cane sugar or molasses, and you get this ferment going, and then you want to use it pretty quickly. You know, within a couple days, you want to use it. But what I've been doing is something similar, but I've been taking the leachate from my worm bins, and I draw that off into a poly barrel, and then I blend it with my aquaponics water. And so that way, if I've got any ammonias in there, sometimes my black soldier flies get in there, and that larva produces a lot of ammonia. My aquaponics water nitrifies that ammonia and gives me some nitrate. I hyper-oxygenate it with my air pump, and I just so happened I picked up a used IBC container that I'll be using for my aquaponics system, and it just so happened to have a whole bunch of organic glucose in there. It came from some kind of confectionery company. So I've been messing around with this. I didn't know I needed to get the glucose out of this container so I could use it. So I've been draining it off, and I was thinking, well, it's sugar. I'm just going to try dumping it into my compost brew. So I've been fermenting that with this, and so I've been doing all these experiments.
You're pretty crafty. That's a brilliant idea.
So I'm just watering stuff all over the place, and, you know, in my yard on different plants, just to see what works well and what doesn't. But also what I get from this, you know, from my worm bins, like I just cleared one out the other day, and I have, you know, just tens of pounds of worm castings. And so that stuff is gardener's gold, and you could either you could put it into cheesecloth or some old nylons and make a tea bag out of it, and you could put it in the water return lines on your aquaponics system. That's really good for your aquaponics system, where you could blend it into your soils in your garden. And the interesting thing with worm castings is that they have an enzyme in them that breaks down chitin. Now, the exoskeletons of a lot of insects are made out of chitin, and so insects don't want to be around worm castings.
It smells like a freaking deathbed to them.
Well, yeah, they don't want to have anything to do with it. So if you're using worm castings, it'll actually help with your pest control.
That's sweet. I love when things are multi-purposed.
Yeah, it's really cool. And so then I've got this other system where I compost with the black soldier flies. And so, and it's not the flies, it's the larvae themselves. And these guys need some warm temperatures to work in, so they really don't start get going until, you know, summer. And then they start working really hard, and they process a lot of material. And then what I do with those guys, I'll skim some of them off the top. They usually feed from the top of the bin, and they're very high protein. They're about 67% protein, and the rest is lipid. And so I skim those guys off, and I wash them off, and I have this maggot risotto.
I'm hungry now.
Feed that to the fish, and they really love it.
You're so good to your fish, by the way. Pat you on the back.
You know, I eat my fish, and I sell my fish to local restaurants.
That's awesome, though, because that's another concern, right? Is what's happening to our fish.
Yeah, they are what they eat, and then you're eating the fish, and so whatever you're putting into the fish is going to end up in you, and also or your other people, you know. So there's, you know, some karma there too. So you've got to really take care of what you're doing. But also I like sustainability. Like, for example, where I'm at, just down the street from my farm, there's a company called Pickled Planet, and these guys make fermented foods like kimchi and sauerkraut and things like that. Well, they produce they produce hundreds of pounds of organic vegetable scrap every week. And so they give me a call and I run over there with my pickup, load it up, and that's what I use to feed my worms and my black soldier flies.
Ooh,
So
that's a good idea.
I'm basically using their garbage and it's top quality. I mean, we're talking just organic cabbage scraps and ends of carrots and onion peels and stuff like that. It's all like top quality stuff, all organic. And so that's what I'm feeding my guys. And so we've got top quality inputs and then we're getting quality outputs.
Of course, action equals reaction, sir.
Right.
You're putting in some good action. It's like, so what's an average harvest like for you? Like, how long have you been utilizing this? And you're like me, you learn as you go. What can people expect? Like, do you have an instance where obviously before you didn't use black flies or worms? Like, what is this extra effort mean in the field?
In the warm months, I can feed all of my fish crops with food that I'm producing. And so I've been doing this for a couple of years now. But it takes a while to build up the colonies, like the soldier flies, for example, to build that up. Plus, I didn't know what the heck I was doing at first. and so now I'm getting better and better. So each season I'm getting more and more and more. So now I'm trying to produce enough to feed all of my fish, plus have enough excess to get me through the winter and to sell or trade to other farmers that are engaged in aquaculture or aquaponics. And so it's a big challenge, because the soldier flies they need some really, really warm temperatures. It can cost a lot of money to heat the insectary. And I did it through a winter. I just kept them going through an entire winter while I was doing research, and it was very expensive. So now I let them go dormant in the winter, bring them back in the spring, and get them rocking again. So that's what I'm doing right now, and I'm redesigning new composting systems. Hey, if people want to learn about this, and there's all kinds of specs on there, there's a really great website called blacksoldierflyfarming.com.
I've never heard of that. I'm so excited that you called in.
My friend Marinos down in Australia put the site together, and there's a few of us all over the world that are engaged in black soldier fly farming for various reasons. And, some people just do it for composting. Some people are raising chicken feed. Some are raising aquaculture feed. Some are doing research into other livestock feeds. And so, you can learn a lot right there. Also, the leachate, you get leachate. You get these liquids that come off of these composting systems. And so the leachate from the soldier flies has a lot of nutrients in it. If you water it directly on your plants without processing it, it'll kill your plants because it's very high in ammonia. Yeah, you could dilute the heck out of it and use it, or you could do what I do and nitrify it. But you can actually add it direct to your aquaponic systems, and your nitrifying bacteria in your system will break that ammonia down into nitrite and then into nitrate, which your plants will take care of.
Right.
Yeah. So and you don't want to overdo it, because you don't want to overwhelm your system with too much ammonia. Your fish will not like that.
Right.
And so you just add a little here and there, and then just kind of check the health of your fish, check the health of your plants, check your ammonia and your nitrite levels to make sure that they're not going up. And so you've got your bacteria in your system. You got the Nitrobacter and the Nitrosomonas that handle your conversion of ammonia ultimately into nitrate. And that'll take care of it, and you'll get extra nutrients in the system there. And this is all just coming from composting waste, composting garbage. And I found that the soldier flies will eat anything. They'll eat meat, they'll eat cheese, they'll eat rice, they'll eat vegetable scrap, they'll eat manure. Also they don't spread vectors. They don't spread disease.
Oh, that's a good quality. I'm liking these little flies more and more.
Yeah, it takes a little getting used to dealing with them. I mean, you're dealing with, in the composting systems, you're dealing with some, really big maggots. and then when they're adults, after they go through their pupa stage, and then they hatch and they're winged adults, they look like big black wasps.
Oh.
And they seem kind of creepy, but after a while you get used to them.
They're your friends. They're your friends, right?
They're your friends. They don't bite. They don't have functioning mouth parts. All they do as adults is they take water and they mate, and then they die. That's it. That's all they do. And they're very clumsy flyers, and they just do their thing, and then you need to have some kind of a system where you can collect the eggs, and then I incubate the eggs, and then that gets my next batch of larvae going. I've got a whole process. But you can also, there's people that just do theirs free range and let them do their thing. But if you check out that website, you can learn.
It's blacksoldierfarming.com. I'm going to check that out.
BlackSoldierFlyFarming.com.
Black Soldier Fly Farming. I forgot a word. I apologize.
There's another website called Diptera.com. And they're out of Oregon, which is where I'm at. And those guys have done a lot of research. Actually, one of the founders of Diptera, Radu Popa, I don't think he's affiliated with Diptera anymore, but he gave me my starter colony. And,
that's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. So that's probably the most aggressive way to compost.
Dude, I'm so glad you called in. More info.
No problem, Yvonne. This is a great topic.
Thank you. And do you have any suggestions for me in my modest compost hole? Oh, tell me, do you know about the benefits that the Native Americans used to utilize when they would take the urine, that they've collected throughout the night, and add water to it, essentially diluting it, and then pour that onto their gardens?
Well, sure. What's going to happen is the bacteria in the soil, natural bacteria in the soil, like Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacter, they're gonna break down that ammonia into nitrite and into nitrate.
Right. So I know this is weird, but I also recommend peeing on your compost.
Yeah, you could do that, and it's and some people, even when they're cycling their aquaponics system, use pee to get that going. If you read about it in books, like in Sylvia Bernstein's book, Aquaponic Gardening, she mentions it, with lots of disclaimers, like, make sure you're perfectly healthy and you're not taking any drugs or anything.
Exactly, yeah, you don't want to, pee Prozac on your compost.
Yeah, or maybe you do, I don't know, that's up to you. I was, a couple of years ago, I was doing some research on YouTube. I always learn stuff on YouTube.
Oh, YouTube's awesome. We all love YouTube. Let's not lie.
I came across some really weird stuff out of Japan where some people were doing peeponics.
Ooh, peeponics.
I shit you not. Yes.
Nope, no pun intended.
I didn't know if it was gardening or pornography. There was this little girl peeing in her aquaponic system.
Hey.
And she was growing vegetables, and so,
I got the idea from studying the old native techniques, I love old world history, like, how did we become, how did we get here, I like to ask why, and people, it wasn't weird, they would utilize everything, you know what I mean, they were homesteaders, and that to them was gardener's gold, like you mentioned earlier, literally,
sure.
golden goodness.
And also, like what you mentioned with companion planting, and Native Americans did a lot of that, where you plant your corn, and then you've got
squash
your beet,
and your beans.
Yeah, and your squash, and what do they call it? The three sisters.
The three sisters, yeah. It's you plant them systematically, and they support each other in a beautiful manner, and they sustain each other. And plants want to do that for each other. They're like us. Like, certain ones get along better than others, and they boost each other. Because I'm trying to combine the square box gardening and the companion planting. It can get a little nutty, especially when you want to plant in season. I live somewhere where there are seasons. And like you, it's cold, right. So I can utilize the natural sun cycles. But I didn't realize that broccoli and cauliflower couldn't be near each other because they have too many of the essential nutrients, I guess. And the broccoli had to be transplanted. And same thing with carrots and parsnips. And at first it was really foreign to me, but as you practice, you realize, oh, this will be friends with this, and this will be friends with this. It's like second nature to me now, kind of figuring out who will like who. So, do you agree that the only way to do it, though, is just to do it. It can be super overwhelming.
Yeah, no, I have one thing I've noticed with my friends who are engaged in aquaponics is that they are absolute perfectionists, and they're always trying to get like the most ideal setup. You know?
Yes,
everything's going to be perfect.
I freak out on that too. I'm like, I got to make this the best, but you don't. Just do it.
There's a point where you just got to do it.
Exactly.
You know, just do it, because you're gonna get something. It doesn't have to be like totally tech and absolutely perfect and everything. You know, because you could really go crazy and make things just super, super high tech and really sophisticated. But you could go with simple systems. If you look at Will Allen's Growing Power, you know, those guys produce so much food with just very little inputs. And I was really influenced by their setup and just Will Allen's ethos, just that attitude of just get your hands moving and build something and do it.
I love that.
Yeah, like I have these vertical grow systems that I built out of recycled lumber. So there's 3 levels. I've got my sump tank, and then I've got my center trough, and then I've got my upper troughs. And so those are filled with tons and tons of rock that acts as my biofilter and my grow medium. And it was all, you know, it looks kind of weird, but it was all built out of lumber that was donated to me. It was just
awesome.
Repurposed lumber. And I built these systems out of that, dropped in some pond liners, and away you go, you know. And people go, well, that pond liner's not organic. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I built this out of
recycled materials. So
yeah,
it's kind of good. It's good karma, right?
Right. And there's, you know, there's things, other materials you could use depending upon how much you need. Like in Sylvia's book, she talks about going to sign makers and getting old banners that, you know,
to line the bottom.
McDonald's had a promo and it's over, and so they've got all these old banners, and you could use those to line your troughs with.
That's a great idea.
You know, and you're recycling that stuff.
You know what I've been using to start my seedlings in? My sister had a baby, and I went to her house, and she had all these wipey boxes. Don't ask me why, but she saved all these wipey boxes, like literally like 40 of them, and I was like, my cogs are turning. I'm like, I could use these, because they have a lid. They're like little greenhouses. Yeah. You know, look around. They're in another thing that we use to start seeds, a toolbox or a cooler. You know, you create a moist, warm environment, and you put that sucker in the sun. You got a greenhouse. You don't have to spend your money. Look around and see what you have. And, you know, you just need seeds. If anything, just start with good quality seeds and see what you get.
Right. And even with greenhouses, they don't have to be that tech. You can take, you know, pieces of, you could take electrical conduit and bend it and use that to form a hoop house. You don't have to have like a big hoop house. You could build low tunnels.
Mm-hmm. I've seen designs online too where people are making like, little systems that attach to their wall, and they open and close, like imagine like, an automatic porch. You know, except, and then they connect to the ground. So you've got a 90-degree greenhouse. It's essentially boxes on the ground that you can cover with plastic. Mm-hmm. So you're incubating and germinating seeds in the same place where they will thrive, which is pretty cool. Yeah. People are getting crafty, and thank God for the internet. You know, we're able to share ideas and connect with people everywhere. Thank you so much for calling in. I'm just elated to have someone join me and share their knowledge, especially on something so important. Soil is so important. And I'm going to try and go through, make my way through this book and, you know, whatever resources come my way, because I think people really got to understand that this is how we get our power back. Do you agree?
Well, yeah, I agree. And with the soil, it's a really tricky situation. For example, I was trying to get organized for this growth season in my greenhouse at home, out in my backyard. And, you know, it occurred to me that I'd used the same potting soil for 2 seasons. And I supplemented my watering a lot and everything, but I pushed that potting soil to the edge. So I've been shoveling it all out, and then I've been collecting worm castings for my compost bins, and then I've been just getting ready to blend up some of my own soil to replenish that, because you can't keep using the same soil over and over again.
Right. You
and
have
to
to
buy potting soil is very expensive stuff.
I know,
and so,
trust me.
You know, and so it's getting ready to blend that up, but then I got to thinking, well, you know, I've got all these containers that were donated to me, and I buy poly barrels from a local company that makes sorry, my dog's barking, organic corn alcohol, and so I get really good deals on poly barrels. So I've got all these containers, and if I switch it out to aquaponics, I'll never have to change out my soil ever again.
That's,
my fish
yeah.
take most fertilizer.
And that's what I love about
crops.
aquaponic systems, is that it's truly an ecosystem.
Right.
And I love what you're doing.
The downside is the energy needs. You know,
that leads me to my next topic. I wanted to share with you that at a local high school here, I've made friends with the biology/chemistry teacher. And he's very proud of his son, who just became an engineer. And together, they've created an aquaponic system that is self-regulated via a program and ran on solar energy. Mm-hmm. And it checks the pH. It times out when the fish need to be fed. It's like, it is so legit, dude. I've been watching it emerge, so I hope to have an update on that next week. But have you heard anybody? Have you heard anybody doing that?
Yeah, I did an aquaponics demonstration last summer at this farmer's market, and it was just on the fly. They said, "Hey, could you do an aquaponics demonstration at the farmer's market?" And I'm thinking, okay, so I need to build a functioning aquaponics setup, and I've got a couple of hours to do it. So I just looked around my shop, and I was like, okay, well, I've got a poly barrel. Okay, let's cut the top off. So I split that up, so I had a tank and a trough, and I stacked one part on top of the other. I built an auto siphon out of scrap PVC I had laying around. I had a uni seal to plumb that into the trough, and all this and that. I had some grow media. I had some plants that I'd been growing in rock wool in deep water culture that I was able to pull off and actually plant them into the trough. But I realized after all is said and done that I might not have any power or water when I arrived there for the demonstration. So I brought my own water with me, and I grabbed my my small Harbor Freight 45-watt solar power system and a 12-volt car battery and my charge controller, and I grabbed that, and then I realized I needed a pump, and I was digging around in my supply room, and I found a 6-amp DC pump, and so I grabbed that, and so I showed up, and I set this thing all up, and I had a solar-powered aquaponics system, and I did the math with everything, and I figured that even without the sun shining, I was going to be able to run that pump for about 14 hours straight, and that's pretty good.
That is what's up.
It's totally doable. So now when I'm working, in my home greenhouse, I have a 400-watt solar power system, and I use that to run some LED lights, so I could extend my day and my grow season a bit. And so I have done a bit with solar power. Now, what I'm trying to do with my my commercial system is I'm trying to start redesigning things so that it's all DC, and so that I could take it so it's solar or fuel it with biofuels. And that's a whole other topic right there.
It is, we're reaching the end of our show, buddy. Thank you so much for calling in. This is session 1 of Let's Grow a Garden Together. So please join me again next Friday, and please call in and share with us your knowledge if you're open and available.
I will.
I would love to collaborate some more, and we could share ideas. And you've got a lot of sources that I was not aware of. And I'm sending my love to you, friend. Thank you so much. And I would love it if you would go on our site and share with us some of the pictures of what you were discussing tonight. That would rock my world, dude.
I will.
All right. You have a beautiful week, and join us again on Monday. We'll be back at the same time with Nick and DB. They'll be talking about current events. Okay? Take care, everybody.
All right.
Bye, buddy. Good night.
blow through the stereo. Yo, here we go, go